Welcome back to the Full Court Press. It is officially day 3 for our show. Ooh, someone's mic is wilding out there. I don't know which one of you it is. But I am joined today by the amazing Marco Romo, Ariel Atias, and myself, Gabriel Cartagena. And we got a lot to talk about today because I feel like there's been a pretty good chunk of news since the last time that we all spoke. Specifically, I want to start with this. This report, I believe, came out earlier today about the Milwaukee Bucks, who have been playing fantastic. Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe they're coming off of 2 straight wins against the Brooklyn Nets. 3 straight wins total. Ariel, is that?
Yeah, 3 total. Yep.
Yeah, so, I mean, they've been playing good. They look like legitimate contenders with the big 3 that they have and how Budenholzer's actually been willing to adjust. And then a report comes out that Budenholzer's most likely out if they don't make a deep playoff run. So I wonder what deep playoff run really means in that scenario. Marco, we'll start with you. Like, what do you have any reaction to this report? Because I feel like it was very poorly timed or a bad time for it to leak for the Bucks.
I feel like it's been kind of a unkept secret around the league that Mike would be out if he wasn't going to have a deep playoff run this year. But it did feel a little off that we're like, 2.5 weeks out of the playoffs right now. You'd think they would have leaked something like this more after the fact, maybe rumblings that he might get fired and all that. I'm not surprised by it, to be honest, because I feel like this has been, everybody kind of knows that he's going to be out of there if they don't at least get out of the second round. I think he's out of there even if, let's say, they get embarrassed in the conference finals. He's still going to leave out it. He's still going to be canned. I'm not surprised by it though. The timing does seem off to me, especially considering all the improvements. They've all the willingness that they've shown this year to adjust their defense to what kind of offenses are being run right now. They're doing more switching, less conservative defensive approaches instead of dropping Brook Lopez all the way down to the paint anymore. Keeping him down there for half the game. But yeah, it does seem a little weird that it came right now. For me, the weirder thing was Nate Bjorken being on the hot seat this early. They just fired their coach. This will be their 3rd coach in since I think 2012. Frank Vogel, then Nate McMillan. And now Nate Bjorken. And Nate Bjorken would be the shortest stint in one. He would just have 1 year. That one surprised me way more. I was like, oh, okay. Especially considering at the beginning of the year, it seemed like, oh, he's starting a new system. They're going to implement it. They're going to be a lot faster because Nate McMillan, he likes to slow it down. That one surprised me a lot more considering it's just been 1 year. But, there's been a lot of 1-year coaches more recently. So I still wouldn't be surprised if he was let go, but that one really surprised me more than the Mike Budenholzer one.
Yeah, no, it was the Bjorken thing was weird, and I believe there was some article that came out and said there's a lot of actual tension in that locker room between players, coaches, and it's just not a good locker room right now, which is weird because I feel like that's not what's been happening in Indiana over the last few years under Nate McMillan. Hey, maybe they should have kept Nate McMillan because he's doing fantastic right now. But I mean, only time will tell. Ariel, which of these 2 is more surprising to you between the Pacers and the Bucks potentially firing their coaches?
More surprising, probably. I guess I don't know if any of them are really all that surprising. I've heard reports before the last couple of days about Nate Bjorken being quite a rigid coach in his approach, a little bit, I don't know if I want to say controlling because again, I don't know the specifics of the situation, but words like that have been floated. But as for the Budenholzer thing, Marco's absolutely right. With him, that team is so talented. You know, you've got the 2-time MVP, reigning defensive player of the year. You've got Chris Middleton. Now you've got Drew Holiday. They've got good players throughout the roster. They should, you know, over the last couple of regular seasons, did they have the best record in the East the last 2 regular seasons, or was it just one?
I think
it was the last 2. Yeah.
And they had like a historic net rating last year.
Yes. So like statistically, you know, they had been an absolutely just a dominant regular season team. And then going into both of the playoff series that they lost over the last 2 seasons, they were favored. Like they were a pretty substantial favorite. If I remember correctly, I think they were favored against the Raptors. I'm pretty sure they were. And they were definitely favored against the Heat last year. Both times, Budenholzer, frankly, was outcoached. He showed a rigidness in terms of like his willingness to play his main guys extended minutes. He stuck to his rotations very similarly to how he did in the regular season, which just doesn't really work in the playoffs. It's winning time. You need to play your best guys for extended stretches. If you're playing them for 32 minutes a game in the regular season, that needs to be up at 38, 37, whatever in the playoffs at least. So yeah, like absolutely, I think rightfully so. He should be on the hot seat if they flame out in the second round, or, you know, even if they get to the conference finals, I think they got to get to the finals. Like at what point are we talking about, you know, this team just moved all of their chips into the middle this past offseason with the Drew Holiday move, right? They moved every first round pick that they can essentially trade over the next, few seasons to make that move happen. You don't have cap flexibility going forward because of the contract's 2-year star players, and you don't have any draft picks. So they're going to be limited to using the taxpayer MLE going forward in free agency to add players. So absolutely, like this has to be the season. They've got to get out of the East.
Do you think Pat Connaughton?
Wait, Marco, what did you say?
Stop playing Pat Connaughton.
Yeah, stop playing him important fourth quarter minutes in the playoffs, and I think you'll be a lot fine.
Budenholzer's obsessed with him for absolutely no reason in the playoffs. I was happy seeing him on the floor against Miami in the playoffs. But I think I agree with both what you guys said. Like, I think the context of how they are eliminated, if they are eliminated in the playoffs, will be key. Because let's say they get, if they're in the second round and they get Brooklyn and they take Brooklyn to 7, obviously, like, you're losing in the second round, but you're losing to what is most likely the eventual NBA champions, according to Vegas. Mm-hmm. Would that be a scenario in which Budenholzer should go?
I think so, because you're getting to a point where, again, like I said, there's no flexibility or very limited flexibility going forward in terms of how you can improve the roster. The league is all about change. Fans, owners, everybody wants reactionary moves. Like, if you don't get it done, you've got to make something happen. You've got to make a trade. You've got to make a free agency signing. You might have to replace the coach, whatever it is. Given that they don't have a ton of optionality with the roster and the tools that are available to them in terms of improvement going forward, the next logical step is you replace the coach.
I think it's going to be. I agree with that. Oh, no, Marco, go ahead. No,
I was just saying I agree with everything Ariel said, especially considering it's always the coach that's the first step. You're not going to change anything else about the team. You're not going to really change the general manager job. This is like the first thing that teams go to when they want to make the next step is they always fire the coach, as long as the coach hadn't already proven to be like a winner, like Eric Spoelstra or Greg Popovich.
Yeah, I guess it makes sense. It'll be interesting to see. Like, this is a conversation that's only going to get louder and louder as we get into the playoffs and then eventually the offseason. And if they don't make it to the finals, like you guys said, it's going to be a very interesting conversation. And speaking of making it to the finals or winning the finals, I want to talk about the defending champs, because I believe they're sitting at the 6th seed right now in the Western Conference, and they play against the Los Angeles Clippers tomorrow night. The Los Angeles Lakers have been dealing with a ton of stuff. They've had injuries. They've had lack of continuity, same way that pretty much every team that was in the Final Four in the bubble has dealt with throughout the season. And they don't have a healthy LeBron James right now. Anthony Davis kind of looks like a shell of himself. Do you guys still see, and Ariel, we'll start with you here, do you guys still see the Lakers as the prohibitive champs? Like, do you think they should be the favorites, specifically come out of the West?
Of course, this is the conversation that we're having 1 week after I said that I still have them as the favorite coming out of the West, that I am not particularly concerned with blah, blah, and blah. Here we are with, they're on a bit of a just a rough patch in their season. They're 3-7 in the last 10 games. They were 8-12 in the 20 games that LeBron missed, I believe. He came back 0-2 in those 2 games, and now he's out again with that ankle still bothering him. So, I think it's kind of hard to have a ton of faith in them going forward. There's a very realistic possibility that they might end up in the play-in, right? If they do, I mean, anything can happen, man. I'm starting to come over to the Clippers as being the favorite a little bit. Shout out my guy Gad, because you brought that up last week, and I think I'm getting there a little bit. I need to see if LeBron can come back and how he looks once he returns again. And also, as far as Anthony Davis, Gad, I'm sure you have some numbers on this. He seems to have been a little bit underwhelming for them this season in the games that he has been healthy. So I'll wait to hear the numbers on that from you guys. But I am definitely concerned about them. To me, they're probably not the favorite as of right now to come out of the West.
Yeah, if you're asking me to take the Lakers or the field, at this point I'll probably take the field, considering all of the injuries and the inconsistent lineup changes. It, like you said, the 4 teams that were in the Final Four last year have all been struggling, except for Denver, who I might be, I don't know, ballsy enough to choose to come out of the West, but I'm not there yet. But that does lend itself to Jokic's MVP case as well. Like, he's been doing this while all the other Final Four teams have been struggling. He's been carrying his team to a top 3 seed in the West almost. But yeah, I'm not considering taking the Lakers as the prohibitive favorites as much as I would have, say, even a month ago when I knew that LeBron was going to come back. Because now that you're seeing that he's not going to be back to what he is. Like, he said it himself, I'm not going to be what I used to be anymore. And I saw that and I was like, that was jarring, because I'm not used to LeBron having a crack in his armor. I'm not used to LeBron being seen as human. I'm used to the superhuman basketball player throughout my basketball watching life. I'm not used to that. And yeah, the Anthony Davis thing is kind of it's troubling if you're a Laker fan, and especially when all you want is to get some continuity, and you're also not getting that considering Dennis Schroeder is out for 2.5 weeks or so with the COVID protocols. So you're not going to get the chemistry going with those guys. And then you also have the Marc Gasol drama going on, where everybody and their mom seems to know that he's better than Andre Drummond, but the brass seems to think that he's not. And that's going to be troubling. Come playoff time, are you going to be pressured into playing Andre Drummond those minutes and not Marc Gasol because of the name recognition? So that's a little worrying as well. For the West's sake, they hope that they still think Andre Drummond is going to be that guy, but I think Frank Vogel's smart enough not to do that, but we'll see. You never know. Even last year, I wasn't 100% sold on the Lakers coming out of the West, but I doubted LeBron too much. But I don't know. This year feels a little different. I don't know.
It does. It really, really does. I mean, this is a train that I've been on for the last 2 weeks or so, and I'm not counting out the Lakers, but at the same time, you have LeBron James, like you said, Marco. He's been known to be a superhuman. He goes 0 dark 30. He doesn't look at his phone for 3 months, and he makes it to the finals every single year. And he pretty much has been very vocal on social media that he's not where he wants to be. And I don't know if within the next 2 weeks he's going to be able to get there. The play-in game is May 18th. And if they're in that game, there is going to be some trouble. LeBron, I don't know if he's going to get back to 90% LeBron in 2 weeks. It's possible, but it's very, very concerning. And the player that I'm really, really concerned with, because I think LeBron, even 85% of him or 80% of himself, is better than almost any other player in the NBA. Anthony Davis has been, quite honestly, a disaster on offense. I understand he's averaging 21 points, but he's been wildly inefficient compared to what we're used to. He has gone down across the board, efficiencies, points, rebounds, assists, steals, blocks, everything down this season. And if you look at, his fame shot, the mid-range. In the finals, he got a steady dose of mid-range. He was just an assassin from that area. It didn't matter who was guarding him. He was getting his buckets. And this season, he's shooting 36.6% from mid-range on 4.8 attempts a game. That is almost about 30% of his shots per game. That's a big problem. If his go-to shot that isn't a pass from LeBron is not working, then that is a really, really big issue. He's really not able to do any sort of creation. He's 48th percentile in the NBA in isolation right now. He's 38th percentile as a roll man, which I find very surprising. He's a 7-footer, and like that's Andre Drummond type numbers as a roll man. He's only averaging 1.07 points per possession. That's bad. You could attribute some of that to not playing with LeBron every single game, but like you have to be better than that as a roll man. And then if you look at his spot up shooting, he's in the 20th percentile this year, 0.82 points per possession. Like he is really, really, really poor right now. And I have no faith that like a lot of it has probably been injury. But at what point does the injury, whether it's there or not, just become a legitimate concern as to if this team can be where they want to be moving forward? Because you need Anthony Davis to not just be an all-star. You need him to be a second superstar next to LeBron, especially with that ankle injury this season. And I don't think that's where AD is going to be able to get to. Like, I don't know if he has that switch the way that LeBron does.
And they're running out of time to find out as well.
Exactly.
And
it's
you're
very
not like
concerning.
Brooklyn, where you have the margin for error is a lot less, considering Brooklyn has, 3 of these guys. It's a little harder for Lakers since they only have, 2 of these guys, and 2 of them are injured.
It's scary.
So what you're telling Marco, myself, and the viewers is that one of the 2 finals teams, and this very much applies to the other team, has had some significant injury trouble this season, and that they've kind of struggled finding that real consistency coming off of the shortest NBA offseason in history. That's what you're telling us.
Listen, I'm just giving you the numbers. Interpret that however it is that you want. But Anthony Davis to this season has not been up to Anthony Davis standards. And I think for whatever reason it may be, that is a huge issue for the Lakers.
Can I ask one quick question here?
Absolutely.
If the Lakers end up in the play-in game and they happen to lose both games or one game and they fall to 8 or whatever it is, are they bubble frauds, or does that only apply to the team out east?
No, I will not consider, and that bubble fraud argument is the most frustrating thing for me. Like, everyone earned whatever it is. No one even tested the Lakers till they got to the finals. So the bubble frauds thing is just something that the teams who lost in the playoffs, those fans of those teams have decided to use it as an excuse as to why they didn't make it to the finals. That is all it is. Bubble frauds is not a real thing.
Yeah, we need to get rid of that, because I put a tweet out the other day about how everybody talked about how, the shooting was what helped, Miami, get to the finals. It was unprecedented. And when you looked at the numbers, that Duncan Robinson, Tyler Hero, 2 of Miami's best shooters, were like, their numbers were down. And guys like Anthony Davis and Markieff Morris had unreal jumps, going from like below average shooters to like above average shooters. And nobody points that out. So we need to get rid of that already and stop with the baloney, as Joe Biden would say. Or what does he say? Malarkey. Yeah, that's the one.
The malarkey. We got a comment here that says, is whoever wins this year play-in frauds or COVID season frauds? I think there is more of a case to be made for this season to be less quote-unquote realistic, just because of all the injuries and everything has been in flux throughout the entire season in the regular season. But I don't think that's going to have I don't know. It could, but I don't believe the impact of that will really carry on into the playoffs. Like, you are what you are in the playoffs. So if you're not able to win in the playoffs, I'm not really going to cut an excuse for anyone. If you win a championship, congratulations. You won an NBA championship. Like, it still counts in my book. I'm not going to discredit anybody. Whoever wins, wins. Do you guys agree?
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah. I think this year, but people are kind of estimating just how much the COVID protocols have hurt, and guys getting it. Like, Jason Tatum's using an inhaler out here. I think people have undervalued the aspect of being healthy and not getting COVID. Just look at teams like, the Knicks, who have had zero trouble and had zero injury trouble up to this point. So, yeah, the asterisk talk, it always makes me cringe. But I do think that this year is a little more deserving of that talk, at least.
Yeah, it's still not like a real conversation in my eyes, though. I think the only thing that you could say, put an asterisk next to, is the seeding. Because let's say the Lakers finish as the 7th seed and they make it to the finals, like, as a whole, the Lakers are probably still the best team in the West if they're fully healthy. It's just we haven't seen them to that point. So all we can look at them as is a 7 seed with 2 superstars on their team, and then we'll see what happens from there. But I do want to get into things that we like from around the league. This is honestly the one thing that I look forward to almost every single week because the Heat have been a little bit of a mess on and off every now and then. I really love talking about young players in specific, or just pretty much any players that are doing really, really well. Ariel, we'll start with you. What is one thing from around the league that you have been liking over the last week or so?
I like the way that Russell Westbrook doesn't care what you say about his inefficiency. He doesn't care that you don't think that he might be a winning player or whatever your thoughts are on him. He just goes out there and he plays his butt off. The Wizards started the season 3-12. Since then, they are 27-23. But more specifically, over the last month, their season has really, they've just been on an absolute tear. So since April 7th, they are 13-3. They are 4th in offensive rating, 8th in defensive rating, and 3rd overall net rating. Russ has been a massive, massive part of that. He's averaging 22, 13, and 13 during that stretch. He's had a phenomenal season in terms of, just improving the overall shot profile for the players around him. He's been instrumental in Rui Hachimura's development as a scorer because he gets him the ball in ideal spots for Rui to be able to go and make a play. He's easily the league's best rebounding guard, which I think is just something that we don't talk about enough. The Wizards seems to have just adopted Westbrook's just dog and his intensity, and it's rubbed off on a lot of the players over there. Again, he's never been the most efficient offensive player, often mixing in a heavy diet of contested middies and shots that analytics would tell you are not good shots. But overall, the man is going to retire as the all-time leader in triple-doubles. He's been a huge boost to that team, both on and off the court. And, did y'all peep his stat line from a couple nights ago where he had 14, 21 and 24, something ridiculous? That Unreal. Is just, I can't, it's hard to do on 2K. Forget about the NBA. I feel like Russell Westbrook just has this rap as being this inefficient, ball hogging, blah, blah, blah player. I get some of it, but frankly, he has this team in the play-in right now. He's playing out of his absolute mind. He's going on, I think, his 6th season straight or 5 seasons, something like that, where he's averaging a triple-double. I don't think it's 6 seasons, but it's multiple seasons where he's been right at that triple-double stat line. And I just think we need to appreciate him more because he's a force of nature, and almost nobody is more fun to watch than Russell Westbrook.
I like the way he's leaning, to use a comedy term. He's leaning into the bit. He's not trying to be anything that everybody else wants him to be. He's leaning into being this triple-double machine that may not shoot well all the time, may not shoot threes well all the time, but he's doing the Ben Simmons thing of making you react to his driving and then kind of bending the defense that way and then creating opportunities for all these other guys. And I'm not the biggest Westbrook fan myself, but I like that he's, leaning into this and he's not shying away from it. It's similar kind of to last year, the way that the Rockets tried being this other team behind Westbrook at the beginning of the year. He also had injury problems at the beginning of that year too. But then the middle of the year, they were like, okay, let's just change this up. Let's just be this wild kind of team that runs with Westbrook instead of trying to push him, pull him back. They're helping him lean into the bit, which is what the Wizards have done. In the middle of the year, they were like, okay, we're just gonna stop with these slow big dudes playing so much and get him a young guy to play along with. So we're gonna push the pace. We're gonna be this insane offensive juggernaut. We're not playing a bunch of slow bigs out there. And there's also help that Westbrook's not hurt anymore. He's dealt with that quad tendon. I think throughout the first 3 months of the season. That helps as well. But yeah, I like the way he's stopped trying to be something that other people want him to be, and he's just being Russell Westbrook, which is kind of the motto of his whole career generally.
I just want to put the stat line out there one last time, just so we can appreciate it. Please. The last month, 16 games, he's averaging 22, 13, and 13. He is a point guard. That's all I've got.
Here's a question. Do you think he ever breaks Scott Skiles, who owns the most assists in a game record? Do you think he breaks that at all at that point in the
what is it, 30 what?
It's 30, I think 30 exactly.
I don't think so.
He could do it, man. Like, I'm not going to bet on it, but I mean, it's possible. And he had like 20 something the other night. Like, is it possible?
22.
I think he had 21 boards and 24 assists, or maybe it was flip-flopped. It was something like that. Is it possible? Yes, it's possible. But his numbers are just ridiculous. Again, he's going to end up as the NBA's all-time leading triple-double man. So could he do it? Yes. Is he going to do it? I don't know. Do we need to appreciate him more? I think absolutely.
I do want to ask another question here. Really quick. I want like one sentence, one phrase answers. Who is more valuable to the Washington Wizards for this season? Not looking forward. Who is more valuable this season? Russell Westbrook or Bradley Beal?
I think it's still Beal. I think come playoff time, especially, it's Beal. Because especially considering what we saw last year in the playoffs and how much the Lakers like really played Russell off the court. I don't know how much that had to do with injuries, but I think he's a lot easier to scheme around. But yeah, I'm still going with Bradley Beal. I think he's like still second in the league behind Steph Curry in scoring.
Yeah, he's ridiculous as well. Like, I'm not taking anything away from Beal at all. Ariel?
I think it's got to be Bradley Beal for all the reasons Marco stated. The fact that he's top 1 or 2. I don't know. You guys said he's number 2. I thought he was leading the league in scoring, but whatever.
Him and Steph are like really close.
Okay, so being top 2 in the league in scoring with a player, playing next to another guard with as high a usage rate as Russell Westbrook. I still do think it's Bradley Beal, though. He's much harder to scheme against, and he has a more varied bag of a bigger offensive repertoire that he can get to.
Yeah, he has a bag. You're saying Russ has no bag. That's fine. You can slander Russ all you want.
That's not what I said.
Bradley Beal has a designer bag. Russ just has, the cheaper one that you would get. But it's not bad looking, but it's just a little less expensive.
He pulls 14, 21, and 24 out of that bag, though. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, he makes the most out of the bags. Like, yeah, for sure.
The little bag. Marco, one thing that you like from around the league. Are we staying in Washington for this one?
Yeah, we're going to stay in Washington, but we're also going to touch, a little bit of south of the border, or not south of the border, I guess. Miami, pretty much. We're going to Miami and Washington, the two best states around. I don't know. But yeah, we're going to go Daniel Gafford and Dwayne Dedmon. Two guys that pretty much have been afterthoughts around the trade deadline. These big names that went around, the Andre Drummonds, your the Marcus Aldridges, your Blake Griffins, even earlier than that. We all know unfortunate circumstances with LaMarcus Aldridge and all that. But it's like you look at Daniel Gafford and Dwayne Dedmon and what they're doing. They're doing stuff that the teams that got those guys wish that they were doing. They're putting up their per 36s are kind of insane. And Dwayne Dedmon's averaging two offensive rebounds a game in 13 minutes, which is kind of insane when you think about it. And Daniel Gafford recently he had 15 points in just 15 minutes just the other day. I think it was against the Pacers in that same Westbrook game. He's the perfect guy to play with Westbrook, really. He's always liked a big that dove to the rim and was just athletic as hell. That's what Daniel Gafford is. He uses his athleticism because he really has nothing else in his game but diving to the rim. He uses every inch of that frame that he has. He's kind of like a young Chris Anderson. Reminds me a lot of Birdman. Just less neck tattoos, I guess.
He's got time. He'll get there.
He might get there. Living in DC that long might get you there. Dwayne Dedmon, I don't know how much time he has. He looks like he's 38, but he's only 31. He surprised me with, I don't know how active he is. He doesn't seem to be like a big that would be as active as he is, but it's just crazy to me how many offensive rebounds he gets a game. His offensive rebound percentage would be like, I think I tweeted this out a while ago, would be second in the league behind Clint Capella if you expanded it throughout, the course of a full year, which, he hasn't been able to play because he just signed with Miami. It gets me to a bigger point of how bigs are kind of expendable in today's game, and how you don't need to pay a big as much as like New Orleans did, Steven Adams.
Absolutely.
Like that was, I hate that signing so much. They traded for him and then signed him to an extension, which, yeah, you don't need to do that anymore. They're like the running backs of, the NBA, where it's a lot easier to find active big men like that. Even Washington found two other guys like that, Alex Lynn and Robin Lopez. They're fine backup bigs. But, Daniel Gafford, he's more to what they want to play because he's more of a younger guy who gets up and down the court with guys like Westbrook and Beal. They're more in tune to the pace that they want to play. And it's like Nerlens Noel. You look at Nerlens Noel in New York. Nobody thought anything of that signing, but, he's been great for them. He's been like a great rim protector, a guy who rolls to the rim, plays hard. Taj Gibson, like that. Which is why Miami fans have been, so happy to get Dwayne Dedmon. I'm actually working on some about this for over the website 5 Reasons Sports. So you should check that out coming soon. About how Dwayne settles their bench so much, just being a decent backup big, a big that can set screens, play different kind of coverages. He can't switch, which is fine for a backup big, really. You don't need a guy who plays 15, 18 minutes a game to really be that kind of switching defender. You can play more of a conservative defense, which is fine to what Miami wants to run with guys like Goran Dragic out there anyway, because they're not trying to switch everything. But yeah, a change of pace big like Gafford and Dedmon, who are doing this coming off the bench, is just, I love seeing it. It validates my center criticisms around the league about people still paying centers a lot of money to do not a lot of things, unless your name is more like a Jokic, Embiid, Bam, Sabonis, these guys. It's a lot easier to find these guys. You don't need to break the bank. So I still will hold the grudge against New Orleans for wasting all that money on Steven Adams to clog the paint for Zion Williamson. But yeah, shout out to Daniel Gafford and Dwayne Dedmon. I love watching guys like this come out of nowhere, who aren't big names, who just do their job. And, they're fun to watch when they're out there. That's the other thing. They're fun to watch.
The biggest thing Dwayne Dedmon has brought to the Heat this season is that they don't have to play Precious Achiuwa anymore.
That's
Number one
true.
thing.
Exactly.
Can't go 1 hour without Precious slander from you, Ariel. It is actually unbelievable. And Marco, we can't even go. Not one of us can go a single show without talking about the New York Knicks. It is truly unbelievable that the Knicks are at this point where I know. It hit me as soon as you finished talking. Nerlens Noel, Taj Gibson. It's crazy that we're talking about them this late in the season, but the Knicks are good. So credit to them. I did want to throw out a stat here with Dwayne Dedmon because this one's just funny to me. On a per touch basis, Dwayne Dedmon is outscoring Zion on paint touches.
That's crazy.
That's just Dwayne Dedmon has been such a revelation for the Miami Heat. I thought that was the funniest stat ever. Credit to Zion though. Oh yeah, I got it. My guy over here. Yes, sir.
Deadman Duncan.
But Dwayne Dedmon has truly been unbelievable. I love all the points you made. And you shouldn't be paying rim runners unless they have a way to bring value to the team in another aspect. I think Clint Capella is actually a guy who's on an acceptable contract. And I think another guy that is headed towards that sort of contract is Rashawn Holmes. I think he's another guy that could end up being paid $10 to $14 million. But anything past that is not a good deal. I'm scared for what teams
you
are
want
going
the
to
deal
pay.
to be tradable.
Yes, exactly. I'm scared for what teams are going to have to pay, or specifically the Cavs are going to have to pay Jared Allen, because he's better than your replacement level big, but how much better is he?
He brings a lot defensively, though.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I agree.
the thing.
Yeah. that's the value there.
You got to be also really like elite defensively.
If you can get him on a Capella type contract, yes. If you can get him, if you can't get him on that, you have to like start trending towards the 20 million. I personally don't think I would want to do that as a GM, because that is a contract for as good as Jared Allen can become. It can very quickly become something that it's your quote unquote albatross on your cap book, and that is not what you want to have. Staying in Cleveland, I do want to talk about my guy. Yes, thank you. Isaac Okoro. I am a big fan of Isaac Okoro. I think he is a player that people, between him and Patrick Williams, for some reason I have a soft spot for both of them because they're the athletic wings that I really like. But at the same time, people were trashing them on draft night. Like, oh, how did these guys go over Obi Toppin? No, they're good NBA players, and Isaac Okoro is the one that I'm going to single out today. Maybe another day I'll talk about Patrick Williams, but I was planning on talking about Isaac Okoro, and then last night he had 32 and 6 against the Phoenix Suns, pretty much as, I mean, the secondary ball handler, which I thought was a beautiful revelation. I haven't seen too many on-ball reps for Isaac Okoro this year, but, I mean, I posted a thread on Twitter. He looked really, really good in those moments. And Ariel, you kind of made the connection to like a Justice Winslow type. I think that is something that the Cavs should at least try to experiment with and see how far he could stretch his game in that regard. Because if you have a wing who can, although he didn't do the most fantastic job, Devin Booker still had 31, he was attached at the hip to Devin Booker the entire night, all the way through the entire game into overtime. The Cavs ended up losing the game, but Isaac Okoro outscored Devin Booker, and they were pretty much playing one-on-one the entire night. That was really, really, really impressive to me, and it's not like it's a one-game thing. Over his last 17 games, let me pull this up, Isaac Okoro has been averaging 12, 3.5, 2 on 47% shooting and 32% from 3, and the most important thing is he's been shooting 3.3 free throws a game on 81%. In the 42 games before that, he was shooting 8, 3, or he was averaging 8, 3, and 2 on 40%, and shooting 28% from 3 on, and he had 1.7 free throw attempts a game on 69.4%. So the biggest number that stands out to me there, outside of the efficiencies, is the free throw attempts. I think the ability to get to the line is one of the most valuable trades in the NBA because it's almost free points. And if you're shooting at an 80% clip at the line, it pretty much is free points. So Isaac Okoro, he's shown the ability to grow as an on-ball player. I would like to see how far he could take his game in that aspect before he really focuses on being your traditional 3-and-D where he guards the number one for the other team. But if he's able to add in some shot creation or some creation for others into his game, I think he will far exceed the expectations of the label that was given to him on draft night, which is just an athletic 3-and-D guy that could turn out to be the next Stanley Johnson or Rondae Hollis-Jefferson, Justice Winslow, like those kind of guys. I think he could end up becoming more than that, and that alone at age 20 and having flashes like this is really, really important. Isaac Okoro is my young guy of the week. He's earned a fan over the last 2 months.
Shout out Jimmy Butler. He says he sees a lot of himself in him, and that's another comparison that other people have made.
I don't want to throw out Jimmy Butler comparisons too often.
No, but like let's talk about like how he was in Chicago. Jimmy himself, he said, "Oh yeah, he reminds me of like a younger me." Like after they played, he has that kind of mentality in him, which I like as well. I'm a big Okoro fan. I just like a lot of young guys in Cleveland, I guess. But take that out of context, by the way.
Ariel, any thoughts on Isaac Okoro, or did I speak too long about him?
No, you're good. I that was super informative. As far as Isaac Okoro, the comparison that I made to Justice Winslow doesn't I know you know this. I just want to clarify for anyone who's listening. I'm not saying that I think Isaac Okoro is going to be what Justice is, right?
Okoro
but I'm just
better.
Okoro better. I was drawing the comparison to the early flashes the Justice would show the Heat and their fans was a really good defender who I think it was, guys, correct me if I'm wrong, was it his second or third season where he shot really well from 3? Like 38%.
I think his third.
It was
third.
The second season he had that shoulder injury, I believe.
Okay, yeah, you're right. So year 3 Justice was a good shooter from 3. He could guard. He was always been a good defender. Couldn't finish at the rim, but I mean, Isaac Okoro can. I think his floor is something like that if he can improve the jump shot a little bit. On the high end, I mean, like you said, he's attacking the rim more. While that's encouraging, and you're seeing that based on the increase in free throw attempts. What's also encouraging is over that span with a heavier dose of free throw attempts, he's also making more of them. So that encourages you to think that, okay, maybe there's more as a jump shooter there, right? Like if the form is pretty good at the free throw line, he might be able to stretch that out and improve that as his career goes on. So I'm also like pretty high on Isaac Okoro. I think he'd be a really good player as well.
If he can just become like an average jump shooter, and it doesn't even need to be pull up, if he can just spot up for 34%, that's below average, honestly. But if he can just get that, that would honestly be enough. And then you could avoid that whole Justice Winslow-Auger type where you could argue if that happened because of injury, mentality, whatever it may be, it just didn't work out in Miami. It's not really working out in Memphis right now either. I believe he was a healthy scratch tonight. Like he's just not
out of the
playing
rotation
for Memphis, which is it's unbelievable that it's gotten to that point. But that's where we are. I hope Isaac Okoro is able to continue on this trajectory for the last 6 or 7 games of the season. I really want to see if they can let him dribble the ball more and see if he can create, because like he had some looks last night that were just beautiful. And there were some passes that didn't turn into assists. He could have had about 9 assists if I counted correctly. He had 6, so that's progress there. I do want to get into random stat of the week before we get into the culture corner. So this actually revolves around the Miami Heat. So we do a lot of handoffs. The Miami Heat do a ton of handoffs, more handoffs than anybody in the NBA, and you can see it through the stats. I looked at players. Well, we'll just start with this. For the Miami Heat, guess who their best, most efficient handoff player is? It probably will not be that much of a surprise.
Duncan Robinson.
Marco?
Yep, Duncan.
It is not. It is a surprise. I misled you guys.
I knew that was a trick question.
Wow.
It is actually, does anyone want to take a guess on another?
Kendrick Nunn.
It is Kendrick Nunn.
Yeah.
Kendrick Nunn is the most efficient handoff player for the Miami Heat. He's averaging 1.08 points per possession. Duncan is averaging 1.05, almost doubling Kendrick Nunn's volume. But nonetheless, that is efficiency. It is important efficiency, and that is why Kendrick Nunn deserves a start. But I don't think that's a question anymore. Guess who the third best handoff player is on the Miami Heat of the 4 eligible guards? So we'll say Kendrick, Duncan, Goran, and Tyler.
Tyler.
I'll say Goran. Why not? I'm going to keep it interesting.
It is Goran at 0.97. 0.97 on 1.4 attempts. Ricky J. Mark, thank you for tuning in. For what it's worth, the Knicks are getting waxed in Denver right now. Bringing hashtag Heat culture back to the mountains, baby. You love it.
You don't like getting waxed in Denver.
That statement makes me very, very happy, Ricky. Thank you for coming and gracing us with Knicks negativity. That is fantastic.
And a little
very sad road trip.
And a little shot at the Heat in there. We see you, Ricky.
That's fine. You know what? He can take shots at the Heat. As long as the Knicks get that L in the loss column, totally fine. I gave them credit a few weeks ago. We're back. Anyways, so Goran at 0.97 on 1.4. Tyler Hero, does anyone want to take a guess at where his points per possession are on handoffs this year?
0.8 something, 0.81.
I'll go 0.82. Price is right.
How dare you?
0.67.
Wow.
Ooh.
I think he's in the bottom 30 percentile in the NBA on handoffs, which is not good. So that is.
What was he last year? I thought he was pretty good at that.
I did not have the time to check that, but I definitely will. But I do want to kind of talk about a free agency acquisition, because on players who have at least one handoff a game or more, this is a guy that is an upcoming free agent, and I think the Heat should be inquiring for his services. Guess who is the most efficient handoff player in the NBA?
Oh, damn! I had his name in my brain.
That's so tough.
That's
That's such a broad,
and it's by a wide margin, almost like a whole 2 points per possession.
Terrence Ross.
Terrence Ross, Ariel.
I have no Evan Fournier. I have no idea.
Evan Fournier was up there, and Terrence Ross, I believe, was actually like pretty close as well. So you guys are not far off. at 1.43 points per possession. Free agent this offseason. Jimmy Butler is his daughter's godfather, I believe.
Oh my goodness.
Kyle Lowry is the most efficient by a mile handoff player in the NBA. And he takes the handoff and he just pulls it. He hits threes. He's really, really good at doing that. And although he's not limited to doing that, I think that would really, really end up helping the Miami Heat. We'll talk about Lowry excessively probably in future episodes, but
it'll come up.
Episodes.
That's just I'm prefacing my love for Kyle Lowry with that. But I do want to talk about this for the culture corner. Man, if you want to throw up that graphic real quick, got about like 5-10 minutes of this. Culture corner, there we go. Okay, brought to you by Culture.
Here.
Yeah, we don't have a sponsor yet, so it's just brought to you by Culture. We'll get
Culture
there
water.
Eventually. You get Culture water from Walmart. Trust in the process. I do want to talk about this because it's been a hot topic on Heat Twitter specifically. Bam Adebayo, people seem to be questioning his value to the team. Is he a star? Is he a super role player? Like, what exactly is his value? Now, I will give my take a little bit later on, and I want to know what you guys think he currently is. I don't really care so much for ceilings or floors. Just what do you think he currently is? Maybe if you want to give like an NBA comparison as something we've seen before. And then after that, what do you think the Heat can do? One single recommendation the Heat can do to maximize him, whether it's a schematic change, a personnel change in the offseason or something like that, a change in his role. Just one recommendation that can help make Bam Adebayo better so people can shut up about him not being worth the money that he's getting paid and the franchise tag that people have kind of given to him.
So right now, Bam Adebayo is being paid something like $7 or $8 million to give you 19, 9, and 5 and be an elite two-way defender through whom the Miami Heat run a huge chunk of their offense. The max contract does not kick in until next season. So judging him based on that contract a year before he starts receiving it and starts taking up that percentage of the cap, I think is a little bit ridiculous. Now, what I also think is ridiculous is not having the perspective to look at the year-over-year growth that this young man has displayed, the amount of things that he's added to his bag as he's become a starter, starting last season and now into this season. Last year, one of the biggest gripes on Heat Twitter, what everyone was asking for was, can we get a more aggressive Bam? Well, that's still a thing for sure, but it was, we need a more aggressive Bam. He needs to take more mid-range jumpers and attack the rim more. What has he done this season? He's upped his points per game by 3 points per game. His overall shot profile has expanded substantially. He's taking more mid-range jumpers. He's taking more floaters in the lane and putting his head down, though he doesn't do it as frequently as a lot of people want him to. Context is needed because development is not linear. We've said this so many times. You have to consider the fact that this guy, while averaging, again, 99 and 5 on really good efficiency, being a good free throw shooter and an elite defender, has just added so much to his game. You just got to be patient. And I know that it's hard with where we're at with Jimmy Butler and the Miami Heat and their, title aspirations, at least going into the season. But just got to have perspective, man. Players develop at different rates. Bam's added a ton to his game, and that's all I'll say on that. As far as a schematic change to how they use him, more guard screens for Bam, more Jimmy screens for Bam, specifically Duncan Robinson, Kendrick Nunn, guys who can shoot. I think Duncan is a better screen partner for Bam because of his size and obviously how terrified teams are of him in terms of shooting the basketball. So have Duncan screen for Bam more. You get Bam going downhill, and it's extremely hard to guard because he's either got a layup at the rim or he's got the kick out to Duncan if his man goes with Bam. So I would just involve him in more offensive sets where he's forced to either look at the basket and score or make a quick read for a score.
I completely agree with everything Ariel said there. One thing I hated seeing, look, you could be critical of Bam when he has games like he had the other night against Mavs. You can't be. We're not saying you can't be critical. You can't be saying, oh, he should have. It's okay that he only had the fifth least amount of shots on the team. I can be frustrated about that. We can all be frustrated about that. We're not saying that he's the reason they lost that game, or he's the sole reason for the up and down season that Miami's had. That's not what we're saying. We're saying we're gonna hold him to a higher standard because we know what he can do. But don't go overzealous. I saw people in my mentions saying we should sign DeMar DeRozan over him or something, or trade DeMar. I don't know. It was something dumb like that. I hated it. I almost blew a gasket. You can't go that far. You can't go far from the middle point, which is watching this guy on your team for the next 5 years at least. He's going to become something that we've probably never seen in a Heat uniform, really. A guy that plays the 5 at elite on both ends, probably come sooner than later. I think a guy that I've made this comparison before is Jokic not too long ago. Jokic was this kind of guy on the Nuggets. He was a guy that was very passive on offense. He never really looked to score like that, even though people knew that he could score really well. He had all these array of post moves. But the Nuggets fans, they were like, no, he needs to be way more aggressive. Like, we know he can score more. So what we're going through, the Nuggets fans went through as well. They're like, oh, but when it clicked for him, it clicked. And, he's an MVP candidate. I'm not sure if Bam's ever going to be that great of a scorer like Jokic is even. But I don't even think he needs to be because of what he brings on the defensive end. In terms of schematic issues, I do agree with Ariel. Way more guard screens. I do want to see more Chris Bosh-like elbow work, where the offense is laid out to him at the elbow instead of on the handoffs where his back is to the basket. I want to see him face up to the rim, kind of picking the defenses apart because he can do that. He's a great passer. He can pick you apart at the elbow like that. They do that, some of that now. It's not as much as I would like though, because I know how fast his first step is and how fast that jab step is. It's very lethal, and that's the same kind of move that Chris Bosh had. I think he'll keep improving. Remember last year, he wasn't even shooting mid-range jumpers until the playoffs. So he's going to make another leap, and we're all going to look pretty foolish about it. It's just a lot more frustrating in the now, considering that you just made the finals. But he's going to be all right, guys.
Yeah, he's 100% going to be all right. And I love that you touched on the face-up game because that is something that I think is going to be so necessary for the Heat to enable over the next few years. And that's not only just giving him the ball on the elbow, although that is probably the biggest thing that they should do. I think another thing that they need to do is add a guard, whether it is Victor Oladipo being healthy, Tyler Hero being able to take a jump with his handle. I think you need to be able to, negative Jack in the comments, create more ISO plays for Bam. He can do it. His game winner versus Nets is proof. Yes, but not specifically throw it to him on the side and just let him go to work. I think the way that you can kind of create that ISO look is through pick and pops. I think pick and pops are something that we should try to do. We just don't have the guard personnel to do it right now. You look yesterday, no one was able to get past the defense and then locate Bam for either a roll or a pop. They just weren't able to do it because we don't have the guards that are able to do that. They don't have the handle. They don't have the passing ability. And that's not a knock on them. That's just not who our guards are. They don't have that type of skill set. I think someone like Kyle Lowry has that skill set where he's able to locate someone on a pick and pop. So let's run through this hypothetically. Let's visualize in our heads, right? Kyle Lowry, or Bam sets a screen for Kyle Lowry. Thank you guys for visualizing with me. Kyle Lowry gets Bam setting a screen for him. He goes around. He goes to the rim. He beats his guard. The big follows. Bam is wide open on top of the free throw line. And then he has the big chasing at him, so he can either attack either side and be able to go to the rim, or if the big just does a soft closeout, Bam can take a mid-range, and that will almost be automatic. And you can give Bam a steady diet of that until he's able to fully just take on an isolation on his own. But I don't know if that's something that's going to be able to happen overnight. I think if we would just be able to add those pick and pops, and we can do it now, do it with Jimmy Butler. I think it is completely possible to have Jimmy be that guy. We had a little bit of that when Vic was healthy. If Vic's able to come back, that can happen. Hero's shown some flashes there, but He's just not all the way there yet with his handle to be able to threaten off the dribble like that so consistently. But if the Heat are simply just able to simplify the game and make Bam catch the ball one-on-one in the middle of the paint or in the middle of the key, it would be so easy for him to play offense because it wouldn't be so much of – what were you going to say?
No, you saw how much that helped Pascal Siakam in his development, yes, having guys like Lowry and Leonard to break down the defense and allow him to go against slower guys like that.
I mean, you look at the game yesterday, like the Mavs, they were pretty much just anytime Bam would take a dribble into the paint, people would be looking to try to just close in on Bam and make him pass the ball out. And that's what he did happily. He found the open man. But sometimes those don't convert. So you need to have the ability to have somebody else break down the defense and have Bam just attack a scrambling defense as opposed to the quote-unquote wall that might be being built near the rim for him. That if the Heat would be able to do that, and I think it's a really big personnel issue now. I don't know if they can do it unless Victor Oladipo comes back fully healthy. If they were able to do that, I would feel so much better about Bam.
That's also an underrated aspect of how Anthony Davis got so good. He had Chris Paul early in his career, and then he had Drew Holiday to give him those opportunities like that. Or not Chris
LeBron.
Paul. Who am I thinking of? Not Chris Paul. I think I'm thinking of Drew Holiday. Yeah, I'm thinking of Drew Holiday.
Yeah, Drew.
Yeah.
Look,
he had that guy to set him up. Bam doesn't have that guy.
Exactly.
We can talk about all the schematic changes that the Heat need to make in order to involve Bam in the offense more. And while I think that's valid, there's no debate that things can be changed on that end. I really think a lot of it, and I'm sure you guys agree, comes down to just Bam's mentality. He needs to get to a point where he wants to be that guy. And he doesn't necessarily have to be the number one option every night. You've got Jimmy Butler. Bam has the talent for it. That might just be a couple years away, and that's fine. But he has to be in the right headspace to where he understands when I get the ball, when I'm rolling to the rim, on that ISO clear out at the elbow, whatever the pick and pop situation, whatever the play is, I need to be looking to just make the play that is, the most advantageous for the team at the moment. A lot of the time that's going to be score. Sometimes it isn't. And he's learning that balance right now. Again, these things take time. He's getting there. I'm not worried about him at all. It's unfortunate that his development is coinciding a little bit with Jimmy's window. But it's just what it is, guys. Appreciate it. He's a spectacular player. The Heat have him locked up, and he's only going to get better from here.
Wow. Chef's kiss. Beautifully said, Ariel. I think we can end with that, honestly. Like, we're just going to have to we're going to have to watch Bam grow and not want it to happen overnight.
Poor us.
Yeah. Boo.
Crybabies.
So sad. But it's going to be fun, honestly. I love Bam. I'm excited to have Bam in a Miami Heat uniform over the next, I believe, 5 years at a minimum, hopefully for the rest of his career. So thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys in the comments. Thank you, Ariel. Thank you, Marco. Thank you, super producer Manny in the background, keeping us ready. And we'll be back at some point next week, most likely previewing what is going to be really close to the play-in and playoff. So stay tuned for those episodes. Might have a little bit more of a chance to give some more shout-outs to some young guys. But if we don't, it is going to be playoff and play-in season, which is going to be one wild roller coaster, to say the least.